Welcome back. So after we get used to intentionally practicing solitude, kind of the next stage in this battle against loneliness is to intentionally participate in society and to find your particular community. So societal and communal relationships create opportunities for connection. They give context to our lives, to our emotions, and to our attitudes, and they expand our network. So when I'm talking about society, I'm just specifically talking about the aggregate of people that are living together. So just overall proximity. Then there's kind of a deeper layer within society, which is just community. And so community still has the aspect of a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Kind of a sub-definition of that is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So when I'm talking about our societal relationships, it's just being physically present around others, communicating with them in some way, shape, or form. This does not require a lot of emotional and relational investment. It's just being aware of those around you, learning your neighbors' names, going to common places. All of these connections may be shallow, but many light connections can provide the same support as one stronger one. So basically, instead of standing on top of one steel beam, instead you're standing on top of a giant stack of toothpicks or whatever. It's all of these very light connections that, because they're so well spread out, are still able to provide that same level of support. Out of the greater society, everyone ends up finding a community. Now that's easier than it has ever been before because we have the internet. So you can specifically search, particular clubs, social groups, or activities that you enjoy and want to participate in, or your particular interests or your particular belief systems. So community gives us a comparative context. It also provides an environment for relational growth. And just remember, society, we're talking about general public, and community as a more central bond. So society, whoever I end up meeting as I'm going through the store, going to various shops, going to various events. Community is those that I tend to identify with in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's around a sports team, whether that's around an activity, whether that's like a particular church, anything in those regards. So on the practical side, you really need to force yourself to be around other people. For me, I force myself to spend about 8 to 10 hours in various community or societal situations per week. That's not something that I just seek out naturally. I'm somebody who would much rather just almost spend my entire life alone. And I'm usually okay with that. However, I know that it's good for me. I know that's an important discipline. So now it's become something that I do want to do, even though it is slightly reluctant. Work on finding some sort of established group, especially if you're new to some place, new to an area, or just kind of starting out trying to find community for the first time. Find an established group that enjoys some of your current interests or characteristics or some sort of commonality. So seek out those clubs, some of those social organizations, service organizations, faith-based groups, music groups, etc. Or really all you have to do is just frequent stores, restaurants, and establishments that you already enjoy or are curious about. Once you start showing up, continue to show up even when you don't feel like it. This is a challenge, because so often we use our feelings to motivate our actions instead of using our actions to shape our feelings. And as you're in these societal and communal situations, it's really important that you focus on others. Try to learn other people's names. Try to find out what's going on within their lives. Ask them questions and remember the answers. Work to nurture and serve others as you do this. So often, especially when we're already caught in that spiral of loneliness, we have a hard time expanding our mentality from just fulfilling our own needs to really looking towards ways that we can fill the needs of others. But you have to remember, if you're feeling lonely, it's very likely someone else is too, and they need you just as much as you need them. So instead of constantly looking at these communities in a negative lens where you're wondering why you haven't developed that deeper friend group or why you haven't formed greater connections, instead just focus with that positive outlook of how can I take part in this more? How can I get to know these people more? How can I serve them? So our goals in all of this is to understand the struggles of others, find out what needs can be met. This also allows us to break free from our own negative spiral, because usually if we're feeling lonely, there's other things that aren't going right in our lives. And we want to know how or why things are going a particular way, or we tend to get caught in this like woe is me mentality. Getting to know other people's struggles and their afflictions really gives us context. This also allows you to explore your interests, explore new things that you're curious about, or things you already have established within your life. This can also just build regularity, where people expect to see you. They know your name, they know at least something about you, whether that's just knowing what you're gonna order, or knowing your sense of style or activity. This is also where the context and environment is given to build the deeper relationships, to build those deeper friendships. This is a time to take the focus off of yourself, to put it on others, to see how you can serve them instead of how they can serve you. Give this broad context where you can start connections, start that openness, because at this point, it's really very light ties. So even if you end up discovering that, I'm really not into knitting as much as I used to be, you will likely feel a slight sense of loss of not having these, frequent relationships with that club that you were meeting with. But it's not going to devastate your life. If you move away, yes, it will be kind of sad, but everyone's overall going to be fine. And even though, especially when we're feeling lonely, we don't necessarily put as much value in those connections as we should, they're very important. And it's nice to have those relational experiences that can build to something more. So as we go, and as you practice solitude, then build into experiencing societal connections and find a community that you can relate to.